Hello peeps, how's it going? It's a Hillbilly Harford here today. We're doing a talking vid today because I'm busy doing other things. And as you can see, Labour voters are in the background bleating. But what we're going to talk about today is the experience of this 52-year-old when Labour took power last time with the health service. Now, when Tony Blair took power last time during the 2000s, the nurses had been on strike for a long time, exactly like it's happened now, and the doctors started to be on strike just near the end, when just before the election, really, about 6 months before the election. So the nurses had been on strike for a long time before, and then the doctors started at the end. So what happened then? I remember it well because I used to work in a harvester, harvesting trees, and I used to listen to the radio all day long because I was sat in a cab all day long. And I remember it really well. Soon as Labour came into power, they put 2p on national insurance to give the nurses a rise. That's what was supposed to happen. So there's 2p went on the national insurance, but what actually happened was, out of that 2p on national insurance, 80% of that all went to the doctors, and then doctors did a new contract that stopped them working on Saturdays and Sundays in surgeries. Before that, I could go to my local surgery on a Saturday morning, but that all changed then. So in one swift move, the doctors took all the money that the nurses had been campaigning for. They had a little bit, but nothing really. And the NHS then had a lot of money spent on it, but it got spent on with some very, very severe contracts, which meant they were never paid for. So the country built lots of new hospitals, but the interest rate was so high being paid to these private individuals that the interest is still being paid all these years later. It was basically a scam, and those people are getting paid for those loans monumental money, monumental money. Listen to the sheep in the background. So it's a bit of a warning for everybody now, because that's what will happen this time. Labour are talking about having this all sorted in a week. And you have to remember, inflation's come down now. So inflation is sort of back down where they started to want a pay rise. So if they have 13% now, sorry, 35% wasn't it? When inflation is back down, that's an incredible amount of money. And if you go and look on some of the videos I've done about wages and pensions of people working in government in Wales, you'll see doctors were having £180,000 a year put into their pension pot every year, even though they were making £120,000. So they get super massive pensions anyway. And they're the highest paid 2% in society. Not a lot of people seem to remember about that. Don't get me wrong, they do a good job, but these days, when they pretend that they don't make them anything, they're the highest 2% in the country of earners, especially with pensions. Now, I remember many, many years ago when I looked into this, when they started the NHS, the only way they could get the doctors to agree to it all was agree to them work in private and for the National Health Service. So they were allowed to do it both at the same time. So their doctor's surgeries and everything they're like a self-employed person. But they can also work for the NHS, so they get two lots of wages. And I definitely think people who are getting trained to be doctors these days should be under some kind of a thing where when they become a doctor, they should have to stay in this country and practice for 10 years at least, because they're buggering off abroad, aren't they, and taking the piss, really, after we've paid for all their training. So I don't say this about the carers or all the nurses, it's a totally different subject. I had carers here looking after my father, and they were the best you could have hoped for. And my dad really liked them. Absolutely nothing but respect for them all. Never had a problem with them here, and to this day I see them and I always say hello and thank them to this day. And people like that should be paid more money, I think. Same with nurses, and maybe take some off the doctors, give it to the nurses, because they do the job. After all, during COVID, most of the nurses were doing the jobs when them lot were staying at home, weren't they? So that was the thing today. I just find there's a bit of a split in society at the moment, where you've got certain sections of society seem to get pay rises and working for not many hours, when the rest of society, the poorer section of society, who are working on manual jobs mostly, or cleaning or working in behind a supermarket counter, don't get any of these benefits. Well, when you work for the civil service, you get them all. 4-day week, massive pension, and you can go and have holidays. If you work in the supermarket, you've got no choice. So that's Gaza's bit of a chat for today. I don't know if the wind is working. I've got my microphone on, but hopefully it'll work okay. And I better go and have a look at them sheep, because some of my sucky lambs, I don't feed them only cake anymore, but they're still bleating like lunatics. Ta-da! And please subscribe, because you're really making this channel go a bit. We had 500 subscribers last month, so please keep it up. And share if you don't mind. Ta-da!